Hi everyone, it's Anne-Marie Britt with Walsworth Yearbooks, and the session today is on photography and on lighting, quantity and quality. Lighting is one of the most important things when it comes to photography. Without it, you can't see your subject, and with too much, everything gets what we call burnt out or too white, and you can't see the image at all. There's a famous photographer named Leonard Masson, and he passed in 1943, but I'm going to show you one of his images. He has a great quote about photography. He was a Belgian photographer, and he said, "Light glorifies everything. It transforms and enables the most commonplace and ordinary subjects. The object is nothing. Light is everything." So I want you guys to think about that. This is a photo that he has done. I know it's hard to see. He typically did landscapes, but remember that your lighting is everything when you're doing photography, whether you're in the gym, under fluorescent lights, in a classroom, or outside under the harsh sun trying to get sports photos. Being a photographer for Yearbook is exceptionally difficult, whatever camera you're using, okay? Let's talk about photography briefly. The word photography is derived from the Greek words photo, which means light, and graphos, which means drawing. So photography literally means drawing with light. So we need to talk today about how the quality and quantity of your light direction makes you a successful photographer. So the quantity of light refers to the amount that you're getting through your camera. We control that through shutter speed and aperture when we're using a DSLR, and that is how much light is coming in to take your photo, correct? Same thing with an iPhone or an iPad. It's auto setting it for you, but you still need to be familiar of your surroundings. Notice when you take pictures in a gym versus outdoors that when the white balance is off, and we'll talk about white balance in another session, but when the white balance is off, it will make whatever is white a different color. Harsh light can make things super, super bright, and then shadows. You'll notice a lot of shadows on people's faces then. And in fluorescent lighting, a white won't look white at all. It'll look greenish or a different color. So always check your lighting surroundings. If it's noonday, it's exceptionally harsh sun. That's the most sun you will get is at noon in the middle of the day. Early morning light is lovely. And what we call the golden hour is an hour before the sun sets. So photographers often refer to the golden hour as often when you may be shooting a baseball game or cheerleaders out at the football stadium right before an hour before sunsets. So take a look at your surroundings and where the light is coming from before you even start to shoot with any camera that you have, okay? So let's look at a couple of icons that you'll see on your cameras. If you're using a DSLR, you're going to see a couple of images depending on what type of camera that you have. Automatic is probably something that you all are shooting with, okay? That's the first icon there. Daylight is that little sunshine, you'll often see it. This is balancing the white balance automatically for you on your cameras. If it's a cloudy day, you'll often see a cloud, shade. Fluorescent lighting is when you're indoors shooting in class. Tungsten lighting is the light bulb, right? If you're using a flash. And then custom, of course, is for you when you are allowing the light to come in and out when you're using it in manual mode. So on your cameras, the first thing you can do on a DSLR, if you're using them from your school, or any camera that allows you to adjust to the setting, even sometimes on your iPhone, you can select whether it's sunny, cloudy, overcast, light bulbs, whatever you see on there. Think about your lighting while you're taking a picture. Okay, that's the very first thing you can do to increase your photography. Let's talk a little bit now about vocabulary. What are all these things I just said? Daylight. Daylight comes from the sun, and it's color balanced to be the same as the sun. So if you're indoors and it's sunny and there's a bright light coming in, you can still use the sunshine. Daylight. Right? I'm indoors in my home office right now and there's light you can see coming from a window here. I would set daylight because I have daylight light coming in. There's no other natural light coming into my home office here. I have no lamps on. I have no fluorescent lighting. I have daylight sun. So even though I'm indoors, I would choose daylight, okay? Fluorescent is a type of light with a blue-green cast that comes from the electrical current through the mercury vapor that's in that glass tube in your fluorescent lighting, okay? So that's why that lighting shows up different in photography. We use the word harsh light, any light with a distinct edge between the shadows and highlights. So if it's noonday sun, 12 o'clock on the dot, and I try to do a portrait and I put you outside, if the direction that I turn you, no matter what direction I put you, you're going to see a shadow casting down from that direct sun that's overhead. Sometimes it makes shadows under the eyes. Sometimes it makes shadows, if somebody's got a hat on, it casts a whole shadow over their face. Think about where your light comes from. If it's directly overhead, no matter which direction I turn, harsh light happens and there's shadows being cast over me. So it's always recommended in harsh light to come inside so that the light you can see right here on my face even is brighter than this side because I've got natural outdoor light coming in and there's a little shadow cast right here, right? You have to look very closely when you're looking at light, and harsh light never produces great photography, especially portraits. So if you need a quick shot of someone for yearbook and you're like, oh, let's run outside, if it's harsh light, that whole face is going to look dark and shadow cast. So it's going to be difficult to use that photo. So think about that before you run out and do the photo. Overexposure is another vocab word that's important for you guys to know. Overexposure means there's too much light on your photo. It's been overexposed to light, and it's often way too bright. Now, again, in Aviary or any Photoshop app, you can adjust the exposure. So that's amazing. But back when you're just doing natural photography, or back when I did it before we had Photoshop, you couldn't adjust it. You really don't want your photos to be too overexposed. So think about how much light is going in to your camera, okay? Underexposed. What do you think that means? That means that there's too little light, okay? And it's dark. So not enough light has been brought into your camera, and that means that it's underexposed. That tungsten light that I mentioned briefly, it looked like a little light bulb in the picture. That's light bulb light, quite frankly. It's a common light that comes from light bulbs, and it gives off a little bit of an orange tinge. And if you look closely at photos, you'll notice that skin tone is one of the most difficult things to get your white balance right on. If you're under a fluorescent light, people can look green. If you're under that tungsten light, somebody could maybe look a little orange. You often notice this when you're doing pictures in the gym. If you notice, if you leave it on auto and you take pictures in the gym, that lighting in the gym often makes everything a little bit yellowy, almost like a yellow-orange. That's because of the white balance being off. So if you can change a setting on your camera to be the flash bulb one or the fluorescent one, depending on what camera you're using, or notice that they are yellow. Just knowing that the picture comes out yellow, which doesn't look good, but if you got an awesome shot, you can come back in, upload it to Online Design, open it up in Aviary, and change the white balance right there. If you can't do it in your camera, don't stress. Just get the photo done, get the picture taken, and we can adjust the white balance later. But just you knowing that that exists is often the first step in knowing that the colors are different. Okay, guys, that's the end of this session. I do have a task for you. I'd like you and your classmates to find somewhere at school that's lit in daylight, fluorescent light, and the tungsten light bulb light. And I'd like you to go out with your cameras, whatever it is that you have, and I'd like you to go take pictures in each of those 3 different lights: daylight, fluorescent light, and that tungsten light bulb light, okay? Fluorescent are your big light bulbs, remember, that I talked about with the mercury, that are probably over your head right now in your classroom. Light bulb light is more like, an actual lamp that's just an actual little light bulb, and you know what daylight is now that we've gone through it, okay? Your job as a photographer is to harness the light. So take some time, take pictures in all of these light settings, even in harsh light. Notice where the shadows fall and keep an eye out for where the light happens and try to capture it the best you can. Thanks so much, guys. If you have any questions, jot them down for me, and I'll talk to you soon.